ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
Elmore deep, left side three is good! From 30 feet, John Elmore!
The Drive with Paul Swann.
Welcome into the February 13th edition. The Drive continues on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Coming up this hour, we're going to hear from the head coach of the Marshall women's basketball team, Tony Kemper. We'll get his thoughts on the upcoming road schedule for the Thundering Herd. The men are at home this weekend. They've got two to determine where they're going to be in the Conference USA bonus play situation. And, of course, we'll get your phone calls in. We got a lot to figure out this weekend. I think we're going to figure it out mostly on Thursday. Saturday, we'll just finish it all up. The Conference USA is wrapping it up. They will enter their second phase of their conference slate, the bonus play schedule. So the bonus play schedule, that's going to come out Saturday evening. We're going to get air times for these games, at least for us, tip times for you. We'll get that stuff on Sunday, but Saturday we're going to get the actual schedule itself. Now, there'll be complete TV times and everything included, so you're going to get to see most of these things, and everything's going to conclude on Saturday. Now, you've got 3 pods. You are going to see 1 and 5 and 6 and 10. You got 11 and 14. That'll be a group of 4. So they're going to play in their respective pods during the final 3 weeks. Now, once the 18 games have been completed, 12 teams, based on their overall conference record within their respective groups, will be seeded in the conference tournament. For example, if a program lands in the second group, it will seed no higher than 6th and no lower than 10th in the tournament. So if Marshall gets in, they're at 6. They got to either hang on to 6 or they could slip to 7, 8, 9, or 10. If Marshall gets in at 5 or 4, they have an opportunity to even move up or go no further than 5. So let's say they finish their 5th. That's the worst they can do, finish 5th. But they can move all the way up, depending on how many games. And, of course, there won't be that much margin for error, so they'd have to pretty much win out. I think they could do that. And the other teams that are in that pod could do that as well. Now, Conference USA Tournament, once again, Frisco, Texas, March 13th through 16th at the Ford Center. So you've got plenty of time, of course, to figure out what your basketball life is going to look like. And we're going to break all that stuff down. But here are the dates. And I'll get into that pod system a little bit later on because I've got the scenarios. But Saturday, February 23rd, Thursday, February 28th, Sunday, March 3rd, Wednesday, March 6th, and Saturday, March 9th. So those are the dates. Each team will play 2 home games and 2 road games, only against teams in their pod. Depending on where each finishes, decides where the road game will take place and who each team will host. Now, I'm just kind of curious, is there going to be a travel partner involved with this? Is the travel partner going to be based on the seed, geography? How's that going to work? Because, again, you've got 5 dates to play for. And so after the Herd wraps up on Saturday, they've got a week. So they've got a week between games. So you won't see them again until next Saturday. And then do they play the following Thursday and then on that Sunday, and then either play Wednesday or Saturday, or do they play Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, Saturday, Thursday, Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday? How do they go about this? We'll find out what that schedule looks like. So that's the thing right there. We don't know just yet what that schedule is going to look like. It all gets underway on Saturday, though. We get that part. Now, I'll break it down for you a little bit later on, but there are scenarios to put the Herd in Pod 1. There's also scenarios to put the Herd in Pod 2. And I know Marshall hasn't sent this out, but if the Thundering Herd loses out, I'm thinking there's a scenario to put them in Pod 3. Right here in my hands, I've got the Conference USA standings right now. And Pod 3 consists of Charlotte and UTEP. I know that to be certain. And we got that log jam. All these teams are 5 and 7. Louisiana Tech, FIU, FAU, Rice, Middle Tennessee, all those teams are 5 and 7. So there's a log jam there. And then right at the top of the log jam, UAB and Marshall. UAB and Marshall, they're going to take care of their little situation right away because they'll play each other. Marshall playing host to UAB. So they're going to take away that little 6 and 6 dilemma right now. But after that, if Marshall falls to 6-7, could they then fall to 6-8? And if they fall to 6-8, is there a scenario in which Rice, Florida Atlantic, Florida International, Middle Tennessee could escape the very bottom? Because right now, 2 are locked. Charlotte wins, doesn't matter. They're 3-10, doesn't matter. UTEP wins, it really doesn't matter because they're not going to work their way out. If Middle Tennessee works its way out, they're 5-7 right now, so they could be 7-7. Rice could be 7-7. The Florida schools could work their way out. I don't know what it's going to take to keep the herd from falling into that bottom pit if they, say, lose a couple of games, these last 2 games. So it's interesting from the standpoint that at least we're talking about it. I don't think we've talked this much about the schedule for a long time. Now, is this an opportunity for the Thundering Herd to come out, the team itself, come out and say, you know what? We have not given up. We haven't quit. We're playing some bad basketball right now. We haven't packed it in. We're going to play. We've made it a little harder for ourselves. Guess what? The magic begins. The magic begins now, and we're going to make our run, turn it on. I know Dennis talked about you don't turn it on or turn it off, but you're going to have to. You're going to have to go from 0 to 60 real quick. And then they just go on a tear. Marshall wins the last 2. Let's say Marshall wins the last 2, find their way into that top pod, and then they just wreck that top pod. And they put themselves in a situation where they get a first-round bye. And then they go to the tournament, they're feeling good about themselves, and they just wreck that tournament. They get into the NCAA tournament. Is that going to happen? Or are they going to get into pod 2 as a 6th seed? Like, okay, hold their ground, win the pod. I guess you win the pod. I don't know. You stay 6. And then they get into the tournament. They got a little extra work, and they work their way into that championship game. Win that, get to the tournament. All's good, right? Because right now, sitting at 13-12, 6-6 in conference is where a lot of people thought this team would not be. All right, Tony Kemper is going to be our guest when we come back from break. We're going to talk to him about the ladies. Later on, I'll give you the scenarios for these pods. We'll get your phone calls in as well. You are listening to The Drive on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. More on the way here.
Now, back to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
You know, today's show's kind of hard and it's kind of easy. On the one hand, I got to make sense of all this pod play and this bonus play. On the other hand, I don't have to work so hard. I've got the head coach of the Marshall women's basketball team joining me now, Tony Kemper, and he's going to make my job easy because you're gonna lay it all out right now. You've got the flow charts. You've got every scenario possible for your squad where they can finish. I can just sit back and listen to you. It's your show, man. It's your show.
Well, I actually do not have flow charts. Funny story about that. My former boss, Coach Daniel, I mean, he was the king of the flow chart after about 4 games, you know, into your conference play. He knew where you were sitting, how many games you had to win to get this seed and that. I mean, he did that all year. He's got kind of a brain for that, but I'm a little bit more. We got UAB right in front of my nose, and we're concentrating on UAB. But you know, I certainly know the general outlook, and we're in a good place. You know, we're trying to secure one of the top 4 seeds, which is the bye, and yet I also know we've got some very, very good basketball teams still on the schedule, so we'll have to play really well to get it done.
I know you're a guy who doesn't believe in moral victories, but you got to be feeling pretty good. Even after a loss against Rice the other night, you got to be feeling pretty good that, all right, we're right there. You didn't get it done, but you're right there. And I think that game really, maybe more so for a lot of people, not for you, obviously, sort of validated what your record has said all along. You've got a pretty good team in Conference USA.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, my message was pretty clear to our team that I don't really want to do moral victories. You know, that's not what I want to do. I think the most proud thing I am about our team is that they tried to win that game. You know, we didn't try to the way we attacked them. We basically shot our shot to win the game. We actually played well enough on offense. Shayna Gore was fantastic. We got on the tear. We made them, really guard us way out away from the basket, which, with the center that they have, she's 6'9", and it's legit. You kind of have to figure out how you're going to score on them, and nobody really had. And, so I'm very happy with our team's ability to go toe to toe and play to win the game. And I appreciate that a lot. And at the same time, when it's all said and done and you got a Sunday to think about what went on, I'm probably more frustrated with our inability to really get a stop in that game at all. When you play well enough on offense, you'd like to find a way to win that game, and we just couldn't quite put enough stops together.
Do you feel that after watching that game, a rematch that happens, different outcome, now what it takes to, okay, we've gone toe-to-toe with Rice. They're the best right now. And if it wasn't for this or that, we probably win that game. You feel that good about where you're at right now?
Well, I think that we played well enough on one side of the ball. We'll have to repeat that performance if we get another chance, and we did that. We made 13 threes, which we knew going into it that they really do a good job of guarding the 3-point line, and they kind of force you into their big shot blocker. And we were pretty clear all week that we wanted to get off 3-point shots. I felt like that was the way to score on them, and I think looking at it, that's the right play. And yet, when you flip to the other side of the ball, we just have to be better than what we were. And, I think our team gained confidence by playing in that game, and yet still came up short. Hopefully we use it as motivation to drive and try to see them again. I think they would like to play them again. And if so, I think we'll shoot our shot like we did the other day. They'll go after it, which is what we did.
You get to move on now. That's the great thing. Win or lose, you get to move on to the next game, and you've got a big one. You take on UAB, and really these final games for you are very important because this could determine whether it's a 3-day stay, a 4-day stay, as far as at least how many games you get to play at the tournament, what the potential is there, and always you want to play. You want to play that first day. Well, you want to play that first day by sitting in the bleachers and the stands watching. That's how you want to play
Right.
that first day.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I basically you don't make it to the championship without a bye. For the most part, that's accurate. So it's very, very important to get a top 4 seed if you can. And if you look at our next 4 games, we've got 5 games remaining, and the next 4 are basically against the clump that is right there vying for the top 4 seeds. And Rice is undefeated. Middle Tennessee, who we play on Saturday, has got 2 losses. UAB is currently 1 game back on us in the loss column. And then ODU, Old Dominion, is also 1 game back, I believe. So Western, we're tied with Western Kentucky. That's your next 4 games. So I think it is great that we get to see these teams head to head to decide it. And we're kind of the new kid on the block. I think that we've got to go into some hostile environments and we've got to perform well. And I think that we have grown up a lot as a group. I think we're ready for a challenge, and at the same time, I think they understand what a big challenge it'll be. So looking forward to getting a chance to compete again.
If it's felt like this team has embraced its role, right now you mentioned you're the new kid on the block. You're also the hunters, and sometimes it's easier to be that team that's hunting, hungry for those victories. And it's felt like all throughout this success you've had in conference that this team hasn't lost focus. What do you attribute that to? Senior leadership, buying into what you've been telling them finally? Understanding that, hey, this is what success looks like. We should keep doing what we're doing to be successful. What do you attribute all that to?
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a lot of everything you just went through. I don't think it's one thing. I do think that our leadership has been good. I think when you look at our 2 seniors, and I would add Kadeja Brooks in there. She would be a senior without the knee injury a couple of years ago. We do have some older key components that have been through a lot of battles. I think that something that I do talk about quite a bit is this. We have a really good group of young women. I mean, they're good people. They do great on and off the floor. That's part of it. They like being around each other. They pull for each other. I think they have done a really good job of embracing roles. We have, Shayna is on a very good offensive tear right now, and yet, they try to get her shots when she's going, and we also have some weapons that can step up if she's not, and hurt you as well. Taylor Porter's been very, very steady. She's just a fighter, and she likes to play. She likes to compete. That's been a huge key. And Taylor Pearson, unbelievable defensive versatility out of her. She guards. I mean, she's probably 5'8" or 5'9". She plays a lot bigger than that, but she can guard guards. She can guard posts. I mean, so I could kind of go down I think the ones at the end of the bench who aren't playing, they've embraced the role of, being great in practice every day. Maybe putting things that they want individually on the back burner so that our team can be good. And, I think to have a good year and have a good team in basketball or any sport, you have to have kind of a combination of all that go right. I think we have. And then the other thing that they are fighting for respect, and they like that. You're kind of right. We're kind of underdogs, and they're trying to prove themselves every time they play, and that's why I think our mentality and our effort level has been pretty steady.
Tony Kemper is our guest, head coach of the Marshall women's basketball team. So you start with UAB, and that's a team that they're pretty good. They've had some success over the years with the Thundering Herd, but you've been pretty good on the road as of late. So what do you see with this contest coming up?
Well, they were picked to win the league this year. They won it last year, and they lost in the championship game to Western Kentucky. They're a very good offensive team. On the defensive side of the ball, they're a little bit like they're kind of a mirror image to us. I watched them play quite a bit because schematically on defense they're similar. So that will be good for us in terms of we've played a lot against similar style in practice and what have you. They're very, very talented on offense. They've got they basically play 2 5s inside that average around 20 points a game when you combine them. So they have good post play, and then they a lot of the game they're going to play 4 shooters around those posts. So it's kind of hard to figure out how you're going to help in there. Got to guard the basketball. They've got a tremendous shooter in Rachel Childress, so they stretch you out, which is why they've been really good for the last couple of years. So it'll be a challenge on our defensive end to, try to figure out a way to get them slowed down.
They look like they're I guess the best way to describe them, I think you hit it right. You might be facing a team that's pretty similar to you, but they're not where they expected to be. What is it that maybe they were picked to win the league? What is it, just the fact that it's so tight up in that top spot right now that they're still as good as advertised? It's just so are a few more teams in this league now?
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I mean, I think when you have a year like they had last year where they win it, maybe a couple close games break your way, that I think they're a very similar team to what they were last year. I think Rice has improved. I think Rice is better. They didn't have Nancy Mulkey. They did not have 6'9" last year. So that game has become more difficult for people to win. I think Middle Tennessee has gotten a little bit better. They've already played Middle. They've already played Rice, so maybe those games last year just kind of broke in their favor, and they're a very similar team to what they were last year. And in basketball, you play so many games that, sometimes you lose a couple close games and you don't, their record is still awfully good. I know that. Maybe it's not quite the, 13-3 or whatever it was last year, but, they're still a very similar team and a very, very tough opponent at home or on the road.
So you've got this southern road trip. What are you doing down south? You got UAB, you got Middle Tennessee. It's not like going to Florida or anything. So what are you doing down in the deep south while you're there the next few days? I'm just kind of curious.
The weather's not bad down here today. It's pretty cold when we got on that jet up in Huntington, but it's pretty decent down here. I'm just in my room working on these two games, trying to get ready for it. We actually go shoot here in about an hour. We'll be pretty light tonight. We practiced at home. I like to practice at home before we get on the road. So we'll go in and we'll get a chance to just shoot some balls pretty low key in Bartow tonight, and then we'll have a pretty full day between eating. We eat a lot on the road mostly, and watching film and walkthroughs and shoot around tomorrow to try to get ready to find a way to get this game done.
See, I thought you were going to tell me you're working on flow charts, trying to figure out the men's scenario because I can't figure it out.
I read that article. It seems like there's a lot going on. Probably after Thursday night, it'll be a little bit easier article to write. So hopefully we're cheering them on for sure. I know we appreciate it. Men's and women's basketball, Marshall, get along really well, and it's not like that everywhere. Their players tell us all the time, good luck. We do the same back to them, and I know we're cheering for them. Whenever we were in Texas, that was 2 weeks ago now, we watched the overtime game from down on the Riverwalk. Everybody had their phones out. We were eating barbecue and watching the overtime game. So, I'm excited for them to hopefully get on a run like they did a year ago. We are in the conference tournament at this point in time, which is, from where we were a year ago, that's a good feeling for us in our program. And I know we're really looking forward to Frisco, so we'll meet up with them down there, and hopefully Marshall basketball can get on a run.
Yeah, and barbecue. All I heard was you had barbecue down, in Texas. That's all I heard of that.
Hey, I can find barbecue now. I'm well versed in some of the. I'm a Kansas boy, so I can take you to Kansas City. Not that I'm from the city, but we can get around there, and I can show you. Oklahoma Joe's. That's big time barbecue in Kansas City. I can find you some if we ever get to my turf.
See, I know that crowd you run with, so I guess you have to be in charge of the good barbecue. Because do you leave that up to Jason Corrier, your sports information director? Do you put that in his hands sometimes? You just wrest that away from him?
Well, I probably have better taste than Jason when it comes to food. So I try to steer us, and I try to make sure the bus pulls into the right place.
Okay, is he like want to eat Thai food or something like that, or what's he want?
Corey's a burger guy. He likes hamburgers.
Okay.
So not to say that he's pretty good about what he orders too. So I'm kind of a steak, burgers, and I do like barbecue. So
see, I'm following you around from now on. That's it feels like this. This is the bandwagon to jump on if you haven't right now. Get on this bandwagon. We haven't even talked about that before I let you go. Great crowd showing up, supporting you on Saturday, and hopefully that follows you around for the rest of the season.
We did, and I think I don't think we disappointed. I think they had a good time there watching us compete. I think that, and I have been I'm very clear about that with our players. Like, that's how you win fans, is you lay it on the line and get after people. And we did come up short. We're disappointed about that, and yet I think people saw that we're fighters, and they watched an entertaining basketball game, and we'll be back in there next Saturday against Western Kentucky for the Pink game. That's another good basketball team. It should be a fun day. So we appreciate all the support we do get, and look forward to seeing you guys in the Henderson Center.
Trust me, we'll hype that one up just because it's Western Kentucky. That's supposedly a rivalry. That's a rivalry game, so we're supposed to hate them. Friendly. It's a friendly hate, but we hate them.
Please do. We'd love to have it packed again.
Coach, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Have fun.
You.
Have fun. Enjoy the good barbecue you find. Keep Jason Corrier in line, and we'll talk about a victory hopefully here in the next day or two.
Sounds great. See you.
That is Tony Kemper, head coach of the Marshall women's basketball team. We're going to take our next break, come back, and we're going to try to break this down. What are scenarios for Marshall finishing in Pod 1? Pod 2. I don't have a breakdown for Pod 3. They didn't send me a Pod 3 breakdown. I think it could happen. Let's just hope it doesn't happen. Let's just focus on Pod 1 and just in case Pod 2. When we continue with this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Wednesday, February 13th edition. The Drive continues on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Okay, it's time to figure this out. I've got the cheat sheet here, and this thing might blow up in my face on Thursday, but we might actually have a better idea on Thursday. All right, I'm going to give you the standings first, and then we'll go over the cheat sheet. Now, right now, Old Dominion's on top of the league, 10-3. And let me tell you something. Let me preface this. You want Old Dominion to win Conference USA. You just want them to win. Marshall can't win the regular season title. That's out of the picture. So you want Old Dominion to win the regular season title. Keep that in mind. UTSA is 9-3. North Texas is 8-4. Western Kentucky is 8-4. And Southern Miss is 7-5. Now, there are scenarios for Southern Miss to drop out of this first pod, and there are scenarios for Western Kentucky to drop out of this first pod. Marshall and UAB both at 6-6. Louisiana Tech, FIU, FAU, Rice, and Middle Tennessee all at 5-7. And then UTEP and Charlotte are 3-9 and 3-10. So right now, Marshall's locked in pod 2. Now, they're not stuck there just yet. They're locked in right now, though. They're a pod 2. If it all ended right now, they're pod 2. Old Dominion, UTSA, North Texas, Western Kentucky, Southern Miss are pod 1. UAB, Marshall, Louisiana Tech, FIU, FAU, I believe are pod 2 in the standings. And then Rice, Middle, UTEP, and Charlotte, I believe if these things are stacked by their position, they're pod 3. Now, here's what's going to happen. Got the final 2 games here to wrap all this up, and then you get into bonus play. You get home games, you get road games, 2-2. Marshall can finish anywhere from pod 1 to pod 3 going into the last 2 games. Here's scenario 1. You enter pod 1 and you finish 5th. So if Marshall beats UAB and Middle Tennessee and Southern Miss loses to UTSA and UTEP, Marshall's in pod 1. So that's scenario 1. Pretty simple, right? We talked about that one. We figured that one out. Marshall gets in the pod if they win out and Southern Miss loses out. Okay. Scenario 2. Marshall beats UAB and Middle Tennessee. Okay, again, the Herd's got to win out. So just like scenario 1, Herd wins out. Southern Miss defeats UTSA and UTEP. Okay, so far so good. Western Kentucky loses to UAB and Middle Tennessee. And Old Dominion finishes first in the conference standings. Marshall would be tied with Western Kentucky and CUSA and would have split the season series 1-1, but they get the 5th seed because they beat Old Dominion and Western Kentucky did not. So that's scenario there. Pretty good, right? All right, so there's still hope. Now, you can finish 6th and be top of pod 2 if you beat UAB and Middle Tennessee, or you beat UAB and Middle Tennessee, Louisiana Tech, and Rice lose one of their last 2 games. If the Herd finished 5th, it would host the top 2 teams in the conference and travel to the 3rd and 4th place teams. Finishing 6th would mean Marshall would host the 7th and 8th seeded teams, while traveling to the 9th and 10th place teams, and we don't have the times and everything yet. Okay, so let's go with all this. Again, this is a perplexing living document here. Let's say, okay, the Herd finishes 5th. It would host the top 2 teams in Conference USA. So right now, let's just go ahead and say Herd finishes 5th. They will host Old Dominion and UTSA. Oh, hey, that's pretty good. You get to host the toughest teams. And then you travel to the 3rd and 4th place teams. So that means you travel to, say, North Texas and Western Kentucky. Okay. I still like hosting Old Dominion and UTSA. I actually like 5th. I like that better. Now, you finish 6th, that goes like this. You will host 7th and 8th seeded teams. So if you're 6th, that means you would host maybe UAB, Louisiana, EFC. We can't figure all that out. That's where the jumble begins. We get the dates Saturday night at the conclusion of the games. TV times will be announced on the 17th. Finish 5th. That's it. That's what you get. You need some help, though. And that's what the scenario here is. You finish 5th, and you've got at least a fighting chance to work your way up. Now, can you win the league title? If you're 8-6, and then you get 4 more shots at it, 12-6, but Old Dominion's going to have to drop a couple. UTSA is going to have to drop one, I think, at least here. I don't know if you can, but at this point, you're more worried about finishing in the top 4. That's what you're worried about. You want to finish in the top 4 after it's all said and done. Regular season conference championship doesn't mean that much to you compared to, say, winning the conference championship, only because, again, you're still getting a bye. You can't win the conference championship. I don't see really a feasible scenario here, but You want to get locked into one of those 4 slots is the way I'm reading this. And it's interesting because I think what this has done here, this pod system is, it's made every game count. There's really not a throwaway game here. Not that there is, but it's made every game count. You dig yourself in a hole, you got to dig yourself out of one. And you play everybody once, and then you get locked into like schools record-wise. And then you battle it out to determine, seeding, and then you go and play in the tournament. So Marshall's looking to finish at least in that first pod, then work their way up. Because really, that's what you're playing for. First-round bye is what you're playing for. First-round bye is the prize. Conference championship in regular season secondary. All that does is lock you into the NIT if you don't win the conference tournament. That's what that does. So there are benefits to everything. Rice is at FIU, North Texas at FAU, UTEP's at Louisiana Tech, UAB's at Marshall, Middle Tennessee's at Western Kentucky, UTSA's at Southern Miss. Okay, UTSA will beat Southern Miss. Just write that down right now. I'm going to say UTSA wins. So that's one of the 2 losses you need for Southern Miss. Middle Tennessee at Western, I don't even know. 100 miles of hate, I don't know. I'm going to keep an eye on that one, though. That's on Facebook, CBS Sports Network on Facebook. Yeah, I'll watch a little bit of that. Marshall, UAB, Marshall's got to win. CBS Sports Network, Marshall's got to win. UTEP at La Tech. I'm going to root for UTEP there. It's not going to happen, but La Tech's probably going to win. North Texas at FAU. Ironically enough, I'm rooting for Florida Atlantic. I'm rooting for FAU just to make it a little easier for Old Dominion to win the top spot. And Rice is at FIU. And I'm going to root for none of those teams. I'm just going to let the chips fall where those fall. And then Saturday, you've got Charlotte at Old Dominion. Again, Old Dominion wins that one. Rice at FAU. Let's see. Rice at FIU, Rice at FAU. I don't know who I would take there. Middle's at Marshall. We know that. Marshall wins that one. Come on. Marshall wins that one. North Texas at FIU. I'm going to say they beat FIU. UTSA is at Louisiana Tech. I'm going to say UTSA wins that one there. UAB at Western Kentucky. I'll take Western Kentucky there. UTEP at Southern Miss. Obviously I'm rooting for UTEP right there. I'm rooting for you. I don't know if that's going to happen though. UTEP's 3-9 right now. That's what it looks like. The good news is, whatever happens, you get 4 more games, and then you get the conference tournament. So after this weekend, the Herd's either going to play a maximum before, say, postseason tournaments, and I mean NCAA, NIT, they're going to play a maximum of 7 or 8 games because they've got the bonus play, and then they're going to play 4 in the tournament or 3 in the tournament. You hope it's 3 in the tournament. It's looking like 4, but it's not over. And I know that's sitting on the fence here. The big question is not if Marshall can beat UAB and Middle, because I think they can. They have a legitimate shot. They're at home. It's can Southern Miss lose out? Not win out, lose out. Can they lose out? And I don't think that's going to happen. We'll find out more. We'll know more when tomorrow happens. And, of course, we have the game for you. 5 o'clock, our regular showtime, 6:30, our airtime for our pregame. All right here, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Buckle up. Paul Swann has the wheel on The Drive. ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
I hope you guys are buckled up. I'm your solo driver today on this edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. It's been fun today. Actually, it's been really fun today. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I needed fun today for the show, and I think we got it. I want to thank Tony Kemper for checking in with me earlier today to talk a little bit about the women. And, of course, appreciate everyone at Marshall getting me the sort of the scenarios about what's going on with the seedings, how that's going to break down, and we're going to figure it all out. Now, Thursday, I've got the regular show. We'll do that 5 to 6. I'll be over at the Cam Henderson Center. Now, unless someone wants to buy me late lunch, I'll do the show with you, maybe at Fat Patty's. I don't know, but we'll be over the Henderson Center. And then 6:30 airtime, we go on. We'll have the preview. You can also hear that on 93.7 The Dog. And then after that, Steve Cotton takes you the rest of the way. Game tips off. Hopefully it's a Herd victory. And we come back on and we kind of break this down all over again, see if we can get this logjam cleared up a little bit. Remember when it was just simpler just to win out and see where you stood? No, you get the pods now, and it makes these games a little bit more important. It makes these games more important because after a certain period, you're locked. You're either a 1 through 5, a 6 through 10, or an 11 through 14. I'm just curious how that last pod's going to work. I really want to see what the schedule is, if it plays favorites to the top seeds, the lower seeds get a fighting chance in that. Because really, if you're in that bottom group, you have an opportunity. You can fight your way up into a tournament bid. I think that's the one thing I like about this. Charlotte's not done. At 3-10, their season's not over. They're going to play these final games, and they could work their way up. So I'm curious how that works. If you're, let's say you're FAU right now. You're FAU, you're in this log jam. You've got an opportunity to work your way up. You could get as high as 6. Or if you're Marshall, you got to be careful because you could lock yourself in at 6, and then you got to fight to stay at 6. You could fall down to 7. You could fall to 8. You could fall to 9. You could fall to 10. So that's the danger for Marshall is, all right, does this skid continue? Now, the skid would continue no matter what, standing-wise, if Marshall was, say, playing a regular schedule here, not this bonus play, because a loss is a loss is a loss. You're going to fall down the standings anyway. But, I mean, you have an opportunity here to either hold your spot or fall down, or if you're on the lower seeds, work your way up, and you get a fair shake at it because if you're Charlotte, you don't have to say finish the season. Okay, our next 4 games, we got the best teams in the league. All right, we're not going to finish this. We're done. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the program. Thanks for tuning in. Special thanks to Tony Kemper. Appreciate him for checking in today and helping us out. Talking a little Herd women's basketball. That's going to do it. Back tomorrow. We've got several hours of Herd sports all right here on ESPN.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Huntington Sports Station.